Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here. And on Friday, Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland introduced something that I'm calling a mega bill. And the reason I'm calling it a mega bill, we'll take a look at this thing. This is just the summary for the bill. There's so much in here. This is just the summary, and each one of these lines is a different change and amendment that they're making to a previous act to change some sort of program, some sort of information about previously made laws. And again, that's just the summary. And now inside of this new bill that they've just released, it's called Bill C-30, and it's essentially supposed to be the bill that is going to implement certain provisions from the budget that was released back on Monday. If you haven't tuned into the live stream, you may not know that when this budget was actually debated in the House of Commons and passed through the House of Commons, well, it doesn't actually hold the government to account to actually make any changes or actually do anything. In order for them to actually make any changes, they need to bring forward a bill like this. Now, this is exactly what's going to indicate what the government is going to focus on from their budget and what they're just going to let go down the wayside and take care of a little bit later because maybe in their eyes it's a little bit less pressing. And this has changes for things like OAS, for student interest payments, for the CRB program, the EI program. So on a high level today, we're just going to go over this information that's inside of this bill, and over the coming days and weeks as I go through this bill, if I see anything else that's interesting inside of it that I think could be impactful for you, I'm going to bring it to you here on the channel. So make sure, if you haven't already done so, to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on this sort of thing. But before we get into this info, make sure to check out the link in the description where you can get 45% off the Canada Money Mastery program with coupon code INVEST. We teach everything that you should have been taught in high school when it comes to personal finance, saving more, earning more, and investing more. But now let's get into this bill and exactly what's inside of here. Now, of course, you're going to see this wall of text. It looks a little bit dense, but don't worry, I'm going to break it down for you on what exactly is in here. And there's a whole bunch of changes in here for things like taxes, certain things that small businesses and other business owners can write off, environmental tax credits, things like these. But today we're going to cover those main things that I just mentioned, the OAS, the student interest, as well as the EI and CRB changes, just so you can get a base level on those things that will be most impactful in the short term for you. And we'll go into those other changes that you need to know about in a future video. So let's just dive in right here. The first thing that's mentioned in the bill, and this is for students, is right here. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see that a little more clearly. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. All right, and so it's right down here. So they make a couple different measures here, and it's these three measures for students, and they're saying that they're going to amend the Canada Student Loans Act to provide that during the period that begins on April 1st, 2021 and ends on March 31st, 2023, no interest is payable by a borrower on a guaranteed student loan. And these next ones just essentially say the same thing. This one's for apprentice loans, right? So what they're going to do here is they're going to make that change so that April 1st, 2021, all the way until 2023, well, you won't have to pay the interest portion of your student loan if you're in a time where you need to be paying back a student loan. Now, remember, this doesn't apply to student loans like through banks, right? Like if you have a student line of credit or something like that through BMO, well, you're still going to have to make your interest payments because it's not a federally regulated or a federal student loan, right? The Canadian government student loans. This is what this applies to. So a little bit of financial support for students here, but really not a huge amount, especially given some people who were hoping for something like the CESB to be brought back in, or like the NDP have wanted a forgiveness of up to $20,000 of student loans. Green Party even wants all student debt abolished. Some pretty advanced ideas, some pretty very left-leaning ideas to get all of this student debt canceled, but some people are certainly in support of it and some people aren't. But moving on now, the next thing that's included in this bill is the amendment to the Old Age Security Act. Now, let me give you a little bit of context here. There's been a little bit of drama around this Old Age Security Act and who's going to be included in these additional supports for seniors. Now, and there was a lot of debate in the House of Commons before the initial phase of the budget was even passed, before they're bringing in this legislation now. But there's a lot of controversy because the Liberals are only including seniors over 75 or older in these new supports. Now, the Bloc Québécois especially are against this because they see this as creating multiple classes of seniors. Why are you giving supports for some and not for others? Of course, the Liberals stand to save a lot of money when it comes to increasing these for only the 75 plus, because of course there's a smaller amount of the population that are 75 plus compared to when you lump in the 65 to 75 age group as well. But now so they haven't changed course, even though the Bloc Québécois have submitted potential amendments for the bill. I think this is going to be one of the sticking points when they're debating this new bill C-30, this implementation act. But I'll get into into the exact text of what it says here. It says Division 32 of Part 4 amends the Old Age Security Act to increase the old age security pension payable to individuals aged 75 and over by 10%. So that's a 10% bump up for OAS over a 75 years old. It also provides that any amount payable in relation to a program to provide a one-time payment of $500 to pensioners who are 75 years of age or older may be paid out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund. So this is just allowing them the ability to send out this one-time payment to seniors 75 or older that they're sort of timing around August. Now, this payment has also been a little bit controversial, with critics saying, hey, the Liberals, aren't you thinking of holding an election around August? Is this just like buying votes? But then, of course, some people don't believe that's the case and believe it's just critics making an issue out of something that's not actually there. So that's up for you to decide. I like to stay right down the middle on these sort of things, but that's the change, right? So it could be certainly a point of contention inside of this bill, much like it was in the initial general passing of the budget, where people are going to be saying, hey, why is it only people 75 and older? How come you're not giving any support, likely, for people between 65 and 75 who are struggling in many cases? Next up, we need to talk about the CRB program, something that is also a little bit contentious inside of this budget because of the proposal to lower the CRB amount in certain circumstances down to $300 per week from that potential $500 per week that was previous, of course, not including the tax that's withheld here. Now let's hop right into this text and then I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. So it starts right here at Division 35 of Part 4, saying that it amends the Canada Recovery Benefits Act to, among other things, one, provide that the maximum number of 2 week periods in respect of which a Canada Recovery benefit is payable is 25. This gives us more clarity than the budget did. I'll get into that in a second. It reduces the amount of a Canada Recovery benefit for a week to $300 in certain circumstances, provides that certain persons who were paid benefits under the EI Act are eligible to be paid a Canada Recovery benefit in certain circumstances. Okay, that's also something significant we're going to talk about. Provide that the maximum number of weeks in respect of which a Canada Recovery caregiving benefit is payable is 42. And finally, to provide that the Governor and Council may, by regulation, on the recommendation of the Minister of Employment and Social Development and the Minister of Finance, amend certain provisions of the Act to replace the date of September 25th, that's the end date of the CRB program, by a date not later than November 20th, 2021. So let's get into exactly what all of this means. There are some significant things here. The first one you'll see here is that they're changing the maximum, or they hope to, if this bill is passed, changing the maximum number of 2-week periods that you can receive the CRB to a maximum of 25. So that means they're going to extend it essentially to be a full year. This is 50 weeks now, 52-week periods in which you can receive this benefit. And that's the amount of periods that you can apply for, right? Now, this sort of plays in to this clause number E, or the note here number E, letter E, where they say they want to have the power through regulation, meaning they wouldn't have to pass another bill in the future. They could just make this change because they already have the authority to. They want to be able to make that change if the Minister of Finance and Carla Qualtrough, the Minister of Employment, decide that they want to extend this program. They want to be able to make that decision to push this end date from September 25th back until November 20th, potentially extending the CRB program an additional 2 months. Now, the reason I say that this works in to this first clause letter, not number, Russell, letter A, is because this is the maximum that you can apply for at the 25th. So this extension would only be for people who haven't been on the CRB program for the entirety of its duration, right? Because if you were applying right from the beginning of the program all the way until the potential end date of the program, September 25th, well, if this extension happens, well, you'd already be out of your 25 2-week periods that you could apply for. So this extension would only be for people who haven't received every single payment along the way or have started a little bit later in the CRB process to start receiving their the payments that the CRB has been providing. So that's how those two kind of tie together here. They are going forward with this reduction. Remember, that's halfway through July. It seems that the payments are going to go down. We're going to get into in a future video exactly how that's going to work, if it's going to be for everyone or only new people signing up, right? We're going to get into those details in a future video, but they are still staying to the same sort of guidelines that they said in the budget. So if you watch that budget video, you have a decent idea on how that's going to work. And C also, I keep on saying number for a letter. C here also is interesting because this is talking about a big problem that's been going on about people who are finishing their EI claims and are trying to transfer over to the CRB. Well, they're having a lot of trouble with that, right? Because of the way the EI system works, well, they still see that person's name inside of the EI system as having a claim. Now, as it stands right now, you can't receive CRB if you have a claim open with EI, because technically you're supposed to go to EI first and then to CRB. So this provision, ideally, is going to make it easier for people to transfer from EI to CRB without seeing the major, potentially months-long delay that many people, especially in the comments, have mentioned, saying, hey, I've been on hold with the CRA forever. I've been 2 months without any sort of support here. What's going on? Well, this is one of the main problems that people have been pointing towards those extended delay times. And the final point here that we haven't talked about is this 42 maximum weeks for the Canada Recovery Caregiving benefit. You'll note that they didn't extend this quite as long as the CRB, but the CRCB has been extended, but just to a maximum of 42 weeks, right? I believe you apply for that benefit on a weekly basis. That's why they're referring to it in weeks here. So interesting stuff here for the CRB program. Now we need to talk a little bit about EI. Now there are going to be some changes to the EI program, but likely not for people who are currently on the EI program, because these changes more relate to who can qualify for the EI program. You might remember that back when the CRB was introduced, they also introduced a wider range of people that would be able to be eligible for the EI program. They gave people extra insurable hours to be included in their claim. That helps them qualify for more. And a little while back, they extended the top limit of the EI claim to actually go for 50 weeks in total. So there have been extensions in the past, and we covered it here on this channel. I'm always going to try to keep you up to date when it comes to this stuff. But let's get in here to exactly what the language looks like, right? So they say, oh, there's my computer. They're saying that they only for a period of 1 more year, they want to make these changes that make it easier to get into the program available for 1 more year. They're going to keep these insurable hours boost up, reducing the number of insurable employment required to qualify. They want to reduce the amount of earnings from self-employment that a self-employed person is required to be eligible to access special unemployment benefits. They're just trying to make it more broad, more people can qualify for EI now. And they want to provide that only a claimant's most recent separation from employment will be considered in determining whether they qualify for unemployment benefits. So that would be people in the situation that perhaps they quit a previous job, got another job, worked there for a while, and then they were fired or they were laid off, right? Now, they may not look at you less favorably because you quit that previous job. They're only going to look at the most recent one, and you should be able to stack up the hours that you've worked. And ensuring that earnings paid to a person because of the complete severance of their relationship with their former employer do not extend the person's benefit period, and providing for an increase in the maximum number of weeks for which regular unemployment benefits may be paid to a seasonal worker if certain conditions are met, and to extend the maximum number of weeks for which benefits may be paid because of prescribed illness, injury, or quarantine from 15 to 26. So this is the change to the EI sickness benefits, the extension that many people were calling for, especially the NDP, were to extend these sickness benefits from 15 weeks up to 26 weeks. And the NDP were actually calling for this to be topped up to 50 weeks, but the Liberals said, hey, 26, that's the number we're going with. So some changes there for a whole bunch of different programs, all inside of this mega bill, Bill C-30. And like I said, that's just like 4 points from this bill out of hundreds of changes that are coming, many of which were mentioned in the budget, but not highlighted, and many that are just included in this bill because it's a convenient way to work in a whole bunch of different changes. So, of course, this is a pretty big document. I'm going to work my way through it. It was just released yesterday, but if I find anything else that I think is important for you to know, I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on right here on the channel. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and keep supporting Canadian content like this being created on the YouTube platform. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to check out the link in the description where you can get 45% off with coupon code INVEST for the Canada Money Mastery Program. I think it's so important to start learning about financial education, personal finance, how to save more, earn more, how to invest that so that you can retire earlier than you may have expected otherwise. So check that out and see if it's a good fit for you. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time. This channel is supported by viewers like you. Thanks, channel members.